Margie here. So many women complain as they get older of weight gain, fatigue, and so many other symptoms. Well, it may be your hormones. And today we're going to talk about this with our special guest, Dr. Kyrin Dunston. And Dr. Kyrin is both a board certified OBGYN and functional medicine specialist. And she is the founder of the Midlife Metabolism Institute and the Hormone Club. And what she does is she provides women of every age access to what she calls hormonal freedom, regardless of their location. Dr. Kyrin has been featured on CBS, NBC, Reader's Digest, Huffington Post, First for Women, Best Self, and more. And in today's interview, Dr. Kyrin discusses her perspective on hormone balance from both being a traditionally trained OBGYN and now a functional medicine specialist. And she really goes through how this can impact your bones and overall health. She's also going to tell you about the Stop the Menopause Madness Summit that she's hosting. So lots of information. Stay tuned. Welcome, Dr. Kyrin. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast because this topic is so important. And it's something just oftentimes overlooked by people because they're going through menopause. They think, oh, I don't know, but there's so many more things how people can help themselves. And I'm just thrilled to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
So, you know what, I always like to hear the backstory. How did you go from traditional OBGYN to holistic, this healthy holistic doctor and doing the type of work that you do now? So why don't you just tell us about your own healing journey?
Sure. So yes, like you said, Margie, I went through OBGYN training, residency, and then had a very successful practice. I delivered thousands of babies. I did pap smears, hysterectomies, and I really loved it. Loved working with women, loved working with health. But at some point, my health started to suffer when I was in my 40s, and particularly when I was 47, it just hit the fan. I weighed 243 pounds at one point, and I was tired all the time. I only had energy to basically work or sleep. And even though I was a wife and a mom, I would just come home and sleep. So I really stopped participating in my family's life. And I started having all kinds of health problems I never had before. I had anxiety and depression and was on at 1.5 psychoactive medications just to control that and be able to function. And my gut started having all these problems I never had before, gastritis. So I was on a H2 blocker. And then I had irritable bowel. So I didn't know if I was going to go 10 times in one day or not go for 10 days. And I just felt like my body was betraying me. And I had learned about health, of course, in my residency and training, but nothing I had learned had prepared me for this all system chaos situation I was dealing with. The heavy, irregular, painful crime scene periods, no sex drive, hair falling out. I mean, it was just like I hit this wall and my health just started falling apart. And I would try to figure out what was wrong and run tests on myself. I'd say, I got to have a thyroid problem, right? I have the top 5 symptoms of it: fatigue, overweight, hair loss, cold all the time, constipation. And my thyroid would come back, quote unquote, normal. I would do the test I was taught to do, and they would come back, quote unquote, normal. I probably checked my thyroid at least 10 times. I would go to my doctor. I'd say, something's got to be wrong, right? And she'd be like, there's nothing wrong. We've checked all your labs. You just need to eat less and exercise more. The subtext to that is, it's your fault. You're doing something wrong, which I know a lot of women get. And that's what I told myself. And that's what she told me. So then I had this guilt on top of it and this shame that I'm supposed to know more about women's health than anyone else. And clearly I cannot figure out what's wrong and fix it. So there was so much shame associated with it. But I didn't know what to do. I tried all the diet programs, right? Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, Weight Watchers, Phentermine. Like, I tried all the things and I might have some success. And then I would inevitably couldn't keep up with it and gain it back. The cravings for sugar were just horrendous. And I would try when I did have energy to exercise like crazy, and I would have some success, but nobody can keep up the level that I was doing. And so I would fall off, and then the weight just kept climbing. Because that's what I was taught in medical school. Well, if you're overweight, it's a math problem, right? Too many calories in minus calories out. So that's what I kept trying to do, is make the math work. I could not make the math work. And I know there are women listening who are going, I know, right? When I was 20, I used to be able to go on a cruise, overeat a little, come back, go to the gym a few extra times, cut, a few extra calories, and weight gone. Now it's not a math problem. What am I doing wrong? Right? Laying in the bed at night going, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I get control of this? Why do I have this insatiable desire to eat an entire box of cookies every night? Why do I have this insatiable desire to drink a whole bottle of red wine every night? Why do I need 3 espressos to get myself going in the morning? Like, what has happened to my body? And when is this going to end? Like, nothing I knew or was taught in my medical training prepared me for this. And I really was so helpless, Margie. I got to this point one final time. I just went to my doctor, like begging her, like, you got to know something I don't know. Because clearly there are women walking around at our age, because we were both in our late 40s, who don't have these problems. What are we missing? And she said, well, Kyrin, I'll run labs one more time, but this is the last time. So she ran labs, and she wanted me to come to her office to get the results, because this had been an ordeal of situation. So I remember it was like a Tuesday, and I went to her office, and it was raining, and I went in, and I was so afraid that she was once again going to tell me, Kyrin, your labs are normal. There's nothing wrong with you. Because I had heard that so many times. I had told myself that so many times. And I went in, I was so apprehensive, and women I work with say that all the time. I was so afraid you were going to tell me that even though you were doing the right test, now when I do work with women, that there's nothing wrong. And I reassure women, I'm like, when you do the right tests and you read them the right way, there's always something wrong if you don't feel like yourself. So don't worry. But I didn't know this back then. This is over 10 years ago. So I went in her office. Had so much fear. Oh my God, she's going to tell, what if she tells me again, there's nothing wrong? And I went in, and I was like, literally shaking. And she said that there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to eat less and exercise more. So you just need to stop with this. She yelled at me, and I held in the tears while I was in her office. And then I immediately ran out to my car. I remember just slamming the door, and the tears just poured down. I just felt so hopeless. Like, oh my God, I went into this field to become a healer, to help women, and I can't even help myself. Like, what good am I, is literally what my brain was telling me. And I thought, if this is what life is going to be, I can't help myself. I can't help my patients, because I clearly saw that women at midlife didn't come in my office after I gave them the birth control pill prescription because their periods were crazy heavy. And I gave them the antidepressant because they didn't feel like themselves. And I too told my people, well, you just need to eat less and exercise more. They never came back and like, oh, great advice, Dr. Kyrin, I lost 50 pounds. Like, no one ever said that. I gave them the H2 blockers, the antispasmodics for their irritable bowel, just the things that I would give them, a fistful of prescriptions. No one ever came in my office saying, thank you so much, I feel like myself again. And I didn't either. So I was so hopeless. But Margie, I didn't have a choice, because I was the breadwinner in my family. I had to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And so I kind of was resigned to, well, I might be on disability in a few years, because I was already having back problems because of my weight. And they were saying, we want to do a spinal fusion. But if anyone knows anything about spinal fusion, you never have one. You just have one, and it destabilizes the rest of your spinal column, and you end up with a rod for a spinal column. And I didn't want that. But I was having trouble doing surgeries and standing for hours on end because of my back problems and the weight. So I thought, well, I guess I'll just be looking at disability. And I know I'm going into so much detail because I know there are women out there who feel hopeless and who lay
Absolutely.
in
This
their,
is important because I'm sure there's so many people that can relate to this story. So keep going.
Right. And they
Good
lay in
ending.
bed
It's a happy ending here.
in bed at night going, oh my God, this is the beginning of the end. Like they're writing their story with thinking, oh my God, like, I guess I'm going to be on disability. I guess I'm never going to rekindle my relationship with my husband because I don't ever want to have sex. I guess I'm never going to have a full head of hair again. I guess I'm never going to get into my jeans I wore when I was 20 again. And I'm just going to be resigned to shopping in the large store. Like, these are the things that we think, right? I'm never going to feel okay in my own skin. I'm never going to have the self-confidence. It's over. That was where I was. And then through a series of what I consider miraculous events, um, I ended up learning about a different approach, which actually used different tests. And actually, it was a patient who taught me this. So she was my age. We did all the same things with her, and she was in the same place. It wasn't helping her. She went away. She came back for her annual exam. I saw her at the end of the hall. She looked like a new woman. And I was like, oh my gosh. I call her my Gina Davis because she reminds me of Gina Davis. And Gina Davis, if you look on the internet, has had weight problems and health problems. And she's been at varying places with this. And so this woman couldn't lose the weight. She couldn't grow her hair, all the things. And I saw her at the end of the hall and I was like, oh my God, she looks like a new person. She was slender and eyes were shining and her hair was full and she had a pep in her step. So I got her into an exam room. I'm like, what did you do? And she said, well, I learned from Suzanne Summers about these other tests that you didn't do with me. And I went and saw this other doctor in another town and they did these tests and they balanced my hormones and did all these things you never talked to me about. And, it was funny because clearly she was a walking billboard, but I made her the exception, which is what a lot of us at midlife do. We go, oh yeah, look at J-Lo in her 50s. She's amazing, but she's a celebrity. So that's why she has access to that, right? We excuse the exceptions, not realizing that actually that's what's possible for all of us. Celebrities don't have any mainline. There are plenty of celebrities in their 50s who are overweight and tired and losing their hair. You just don't see them in social media, showing themselves in their bikinis because they're hiding just like you are, right? Right. So anyway, I took to heart what she shared with me and I started doing research. I said, you know what? There are women who are in their 40s, 50s, 80s who are healthy weight and have vitality and energy and great sex drive and look and feel amazing. So what do they know that we don't know? So I started doing research. And I just started researching with doctors and scientists and looking at tests that I had never heard of. And then I started doing them on myself. And when I kind of discovered that there might be another path, all of a sudden I had this hope that my life could be different. I said, I'm going to learn everything I can about this and I'm going to use it on myself. And if it works, I'm going to spend the rest of my life helping other women. And so that's what I did. And fast forward 2 years, I had lost 100 pounds. I was off all prescription medications, hair growing back, sex drive back, gut healed, no depression, no anxiety. I was like a new person and I looked and felt 20 years younger than I was. And people stopped recognizing me. I'd see them at the mall, people I had known for decades. And I'd say, hey, how are you? They'd walk by me. They wouldn't say anything. And they get 10 feet past me. And then they'd turn around and go, Kyrin, is that you? And I'd say, yep. And they go, oh my God, I didn't even recognize you. So then my patients were pulling me in the exam room going, what are you doing? I want what you have. And so I started doing it with them. And instead of giving people antidepressants and birth control pills, which never fix the problem, I started saying to them, hey, you want to do these special tests. You want to do the right test. You want me to read them the right way. You want to learn about your hormones. We want to balance the root cause of this. And they were like, yeah, I want that. I've never talked to an intelligent woman who, when explained the difference between what mainstream medicine is, basically, we're going to only worry that you have a problem when you've gotten so severe that you have a disease diagnosis. And then we're going to give you a drug to control the symptom that doesn't fix the problem. And then if that doesn't work, we're going to do a surgery to cut the offending organ out. So you don't even know you have a problem. We're going to do a hysterectomy. So to shut your uterus up from having an abnormal bleeding problem, never mind the fact that the reason why your uterus is having a bleeding problem is because you have a hormone imbalance. We're going to just ignore that, right? That's mainstream medicine. And then that hormone imbalance is going to cause you to lose your hair, have no sex drive, have thin bones that are going to break easily, gain weight, have depression, have anxiety. Like, we're going to even pretend that's not happening. So if you want a higher standard of care for yourself, and you want to be at an ideal weight, and you want to feel sexy and alive and have healthy bones and muscles and eyes and teeth and hair, you've got to go to a different store. And so Margie and I are teaching you about the different store. And that store is the optimal health store, right? So this is the paradigm that I learned and transform my health, and that I've done with thousands of women over the years. It's what I teach about on my podcast, The Hormone Prescription. There may be a prescription you need for some things like natural hormones, but there's a whole other prescription for all the other things you need to be doing in your life with diet and lifestyle and supplements. And that's what we teach about. So that's really my journey, Marjorie. And this is how I transform my health and the work that I do with women.
Wow, so interesting. And just something about the conventional doctors, because I'm surrounded by conventional doctors, and I think they don't mean harm. It's just a
No.
different learning process. As you said, that's how they're trained. So I think they mean well. They just haven't been trained in some of these other methods and hormone balancing that you're talking about. So why don't we just delve into that? At what age do you do the testing? Could you be more specific what type of testing you do to create this hormone balance?
Right. So in the summit, we have 75 experts who are teaching you all the things need to know, over 50 doctors, just so you know. And like you said, Margie, it's not, doctors are wonderful people. Okay. They go into this field well-intentioned, but when you are trained in how to sell hardware, that's all you're trained in. You're not trained in how to sell milk. So this is what you're trained in. And then you're told that you know more about health than anyone else because you are a board certified physician in the American medical system. So you don't have any reason to think that there's other things you don't know. And that was what I was bumping up against, is I thought I knew everything. So there was no reason for me to look elsewhere. And it wasn't until I had so much pain that I became open to looking elsewhere. So all the doctors who do this type of work, they had health problems that weren't solved by mainstream medicine, or they had loved ones. And that's what broke them open to realize, I don't know everything. You're not teachable when you think you know everything. We call it contempt prior to investigation. So in the summit, there's going to be more than I can teach you in the time that we have together on the podcast. You will learn what are the right tests for all these things. It is never too early to start looking at your hormones. Your hormones are the foundation for your health. And we're taught as women that they're these accessory things that only women have to worry about. And they're not really a foundational part of your health. And the only reason we're taught that is because that's what doctors are taught. That's what I was taught. And now that I have transformed my health and helped thousands of women transform their health, I know that that's a lie. The truth is that the very foundation of how your body functions is hormones. Okay. So I'm going to explain this. So your brain is your mainframe computer. So in our modern society, what runs systems? Computers run systems. You have a built-in computer that is your brain. And just like the information that comes into your house through technology, through your internet, you've got hardwired internet where you can plug in your computer, and you've got wireless internet that comes wirelessly. Well, your brain speaks to all your cells in your body similarly. You've got hardwired internet from your brain, and that's your nerves, mostly part of the conscious part of your nervous system that is under your conscious control. I want to snap my fingers. I want to bat an eyelash. I want to speak to Margie, right? These are hardwired nerves, just like hardwired internet. But the wireless internet in your house, I don't know about in your house, but I'm constantly having spinning wheels, cannot connect, there's an internet, right? There's a storm right now. It's raining where I am, and the internet will go out, cannot connect, right? So the hardwired connection is really solid, but the wireless internet is more fragile because there are more problems that can happen. Well, you have a wireless internet from your brain, and that's called your hormonal system. All your hormones originate from your brain, right? Right back in here. And they send through your bloodstream these hormones that then go to these specialized organs, endocrine organs throughout your body, to make other hormones that go through your bloodstream that have to go to end organs. So lots of places where you can have a problem. So we live in a sea of hormone disrupting chemicals. And so just washing your hands with the hand soap that has some of these hormone disrupting chemicals in them, or using a body lotion or shampoo, they're everywhere. We are inundated with them. 85,000 new chemicals introduced into the environment since the Industrial Revolution. The average woman has traces of 400 toxic chemicals in her body. The average woman uses 18 products with toxic chemicals before she leaves the house. This is preservatives in your cosmetics and your toiletries. This is artificial colorings and artificial scents, my pet peeve, made from petroleum byproducts, i.e. gasoline. That nice smelling lotion that you love that you got at the mall is scented with gasoline. So you're putting it on your body and you're putting gasoline onto your skin. It is going into your body, and guess what? Disrupting your hormones. Meaning that wireless internet connection that's supposed to work so beautifully is now disrupted, and your hormones can't get the signals. So what I want to tell you though, as to why are hormones foundational, let me ask you a question, everybody listening. What's the most important aspect of how well any system functions? So if you go in any third grade classroom today, and the main usual teacher is out sick and she didn't get a lesson plan to the substitute teacher. Substitute teacher comes in, she has no idea what the expectations are in this class. She doesn't write a lesson plan on the board. She doesn't tell the kids what to do. What do you see in that class? Chaos, right? You see kids running around playing tag, screaming, throwing spitballs, pulling each other's hair. Chaos in that system. A third grade classroom is a system, right? You would agree. A school is a system. You see chaos in that system. Why? There has been no communication. No communication equals no regulation equals chaos. Well, it's no different in your body. Your hormones are the communicators and the regulators of all the metabolic functions in your body. They control, they're the metabolic regulators of how your insulin functions and how it regulates your blood sugar. They are, well, your insulin is one of your main hormones. They're the regulator of your thyroid function, which regulates your metabolic rate, the rate at which you burn calories and turn them into energy for fuel. It includes your cortisol, stress hormone, which helps to regulate your sleep-wake cycle, your energy, your weight, and your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, which don't only regulate your fertility and sex drive. That's the thing that most women get wrong. You think that's only about your sex drive and fertility. You have more receptors for estrogen, progesterone, testosterone in your brain than anywhere else. So what does that tell you? They are important for how your mainframe computer functions. So there is chaos when you are overweight, tired, hair loss, gut dysfunction, depression, anxiety, all the things we're talking about. You have chaos in your system because your hormones are offline. And your hormones are the most important regulators of how your body functions. So that is foundational. So stop thinking about them as some superfluous things that just make you a baby, right? That is not true. That's a go Hormones are the very foundation of how your body functions, and you've got to start there. So you need to get a higher standard of care and go to the summit, learn the right tests to have, when to do them, how to read them yourself, and get with the practitioners who are in the summit and get their guidance on how to make 80 look fabulous, because that's what this is all about, right? You're in the middle of your book of your life. You're not at the end, right? Just in the past 100 years, our lifespan has increased tremendously. our grandmothers and a lot of our mothers didn't have the lifespan. They didn't have the knowledge and capacity to navigate menopause in a healthy way. So you are at a tremendous opportunity, but you've got to take control of your health, and you've got to make a conscious choice for yourself and become the CEO of your own healthcare.
Wow, there's so many things that you said there. Let's
Yeah.
just let's just backtrack a little, because I think something that you said that's so important, because people minimize the effects of the toxins in the environment, and they don't really think, oh, how could this skincare that makes me look so beautiful, how could this really be impacting my hormones? And so, did you want to just, for everybody listening, what would your steps be in terms of the environment, like where to start? Because that's something everybody, it's great. I'm excited about your summit because you have so many wonderful speakers. But what are a couple things people can do right away, because they are in endocrine disruptors, and they do, they are affecting
Right.
our hormones, and people sort of don't think it's a big deal. So do you want to just give people a few little tips they could do right away to minimize, like maybe your favorite ones about minimizing some of the toxins, where to start with that for the hormones?
Right. Well, the first thing I would say, if you think that just because you can't see it, it's not affecting your health, look at the current pandemic that we're in. Right. So you can't see that virus, but look at the effect that it's having. And it's no different with the chemicals. So the problem with the chemicals is that you can't see them, number one. And the other thing is, like my kids used to say to me when they were kids, I used to say, no, we're not going to get this food, like Cheetos. We're not going to have Cheetos because it has artificial colorings and flavorings in it. It's not healthy. And my kids would say, well, they wouldn't allow that. That's not true. If you can buy it at the store, it's not a problem. And I used to say, they don't care. Like the people who are regulating the food industry are not concerned about the harms of artificial colorings and flavorings in food. And I think that we as adults have the same attitude. A lot of us have woken up about our food, but we haven't woken up about our personal care products. There hasn't been legislation passed. I think it's like 83 or 85 years in the past 83 or 85 years on personal healthcare products. So since the inception of phthalates, parabens, all these plasticizers and additives and stabilizers, artificial colorings and scents, there has been no legislation passed. So that's part of the problem. So they are not regulating it. It's not because people haven't tried. There actually are several female congresswomen who have tried to get legislation passed for transparency and labeling of personal care products. It's been shot down. For restrictions, it's been shot down. So number one is it's not being regulated. So you have to regulate it for yourself. And if you think it doesn't have an impact, look at the current pandemic. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't have it. The other problem is that these chemicals are not studied for their cumulative effects or temporal effects. So what does that mean? They might look at phthalates in these products. Most of them have it. Or siloxanes from silicone, right? They might look at it alone. And they look at it in rats, and they look at the lethal dose 50. What's the dose that will kill half of the rats? And I know that sounds pretty morbid. It is. And then they extrapolate that to humans, and they kind of say, well, it doesn't have it's such a small amount. It's not a lethal dose. So we'll allow that in the products. But what they don't do is look at the fact that the average woman has 400 toxic chemicals in her system at a time. What is the cumulative effect of this? And it's just like you with stress in your life, right? If we want to assess the effect of stress in your life, and all we do is come and look at you for 5 minutes a day, when you just woke up, and you're laying in bed listening to some music, we might say, yeah, she doesn't have a stressful life. Her stress level is like 1 out of 10, right? But if we look at your life, over a whole week and all the things you have to do and how you have to multitask and you're driving and listening to a podcast and then you're talking to your coworker on the phone about a project and then you've got emails and text messages and Facebook messages and blah, 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 right? The cumulative effect of all your sources of stress, then we'll have a perfect picture. Well, nobody's doing that with these toxins, right? The agency in the government that's designated to look at the toxicity levels of these chemicals, all they do is look at one little chemical and will it kill you, basically. And these chemicals oftentimes don't have a temporal relationship, and you're getting them at such small quantities. It's not like you take a little and then you die. You take a little and it will take years and years and years to accumulate, because a lot of these bioaccumulate. They also accumulate in the foods you eat, in the animals you eat, so you're getting it from them. So nobody's paying attention to the cumulative multiplicative effects, and that's the problem. So if you think small things don't have big effects, the current pandemic, I would say, look at. So what are some steps you said? So definitely we talk about this in the summit. JJ Virgin talks about it from food sensitivity standpoint. A lot of this has to do with gut health, which we probably don't have time to go in today. Dr. Vincent Pedre is on talking about gut health and how this affects your hormones, which gets to the toxicity effect. I know we've got other people talking about the chemicals too, but I can't think of their names right now. So what are my top 3 things is just start questioning everything. And stop saying that they are regulating it. Nobody's regulating it. You've got to do it for yourself. So number 1 is stop using, I call them the GDAM, artificial fragrances. That is the number 1 thing you have got to do today. No plugins, no artificially scented candles, no room sprays, no Febreze, none of that scented stuff to scent your air, not in your car, not on your body, not body scented lotions, shampoos, conditioners. Get rid of that stuff. It is so toxic. You can look on the environmentalworkinggroup.org, ewg.org. They have a database and they will tell you about all these chemicals you need to avoid. And you can look up your products you're using. Fragrances are rated very poorly. You need to get them out of your environment. Number 2 would be get rid of the phthalates. It will come under many different names in the ingredients in your products. Now, some personal care products like shampoo, conditioner, body lotion, they have to list the ingredients, but your makeup, they don't list the ingredients. So you're going to have to do some sleuthing online. And, some lipsticks still have heavy metals like lead in them. So just think, you're using that lipstick, you're eating lead. Lead is a toxic heavy metal. So get rid of the phthalates, get rid of the chemicals in your personal care products. And then what would the third thing be? I would just say, there are so many brands now, so many people are aware that this is a problem. And so they are actively searching online all natural makeup brands, all natural personal care products. There are lots of new companies and they want to earn your business. So if you search for them, you can find them and then you can just switch your products out, but don't overwhelm yourself and try to do it all at once. When you run out of something, switch it out. So find these companies, but I will say this, that, the big manufacturers, why do they have these chemicals? Because they're cheap and it's profitable. That's the bottom line. And they're all about profit. But they know that consumers are getting savvy. So you're going to be easily confused. You're going to search for all natural healthcare products. And then they do this with food too. And you're going to come across something like, they're going to try and convince you because of the colors they use in their marketing and the words they use that it is all natural. But you can't fall for the marketing, the colors and the packaging. You've got to do your research and look at the actual ingredients. A lot of them don't even have to disclose it, so you're not going to be able to find it. That's a sure sign you need to not use it. So just don't be fooled by the packaging. Get educated, come on the summit. We will tell you what you need to know.
It's so important and something everybody can take control. And I also love how you said you have to be the one to take control of your health. If you're not feeling well, keep digging deeper. It's something I believe in as well. Just don't say, oh, my labs are fine, I'm fine. And you just want to share, because so many people, are listening and they're absolutely terrified of hormone replacement. And there are some misconceptions. Do you want to just share some of the misconceptions? Because there's just so many people out there who
Oh my
are really afraid. Just quickly share some of the misconceptions.
Okay. The fact that you are afraid of natural hormone replacement is insanity. Who has more sex hormones than anybody else? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Men and women in their 20s. Okay. If there was any fear about estrogen in particular, is the one women are afraid of, but they're also afraid of testosterone. Who would have the highest risk of breast cancer? Cancer is the thing that women are afraid of. Who would have the highest rate of that? 20-year-old women. Is that the case? No. So saying that you're afraid of hormone replacement, and there are different types of hormone replacement. I agree with you that synthetic hormones that are artificial to what your body naturally has, horse estrogen, so-called Premarin, progestin, like medroxyprogesterone acetate, yes, they have been shown to increase rate of breast cancer. You should be afraid of those. You should not be afraid of what you naturally biologically have that God gave you, that you were born with, which is natural estradiol, estriol, progesterone, and testosterone. You should not be afraid of that. That's like saying you should be afraid of calcium and vitamin D. That's insane. You naturally have calcium and vitamin D. You can't function without it. Why are we afraid of something that you naturally have? Is because there's been confusion, and because basic doctors don't even understand the difference between synthetic and natural or biologically identical hormones, which you naturally have. So if this is you and you're afraid, you have been misinformed and you need to come on the summit. So on estrogen alone, we have Dr. Lindsay Berkson, who has done a lot of the research on estrogen and breast cancer and treats breast cancer with estrogen, telling you why you not only shouldn't be afraid of estrogen, but it should be your best friend. We have Dr. Sharon Stills also talking about estrogen and breasts. Oh my, right? Well, everybody's afraid. What's the truth here? She will tell you. She's done a lot of the research too. We have Dr. Tabitha Barber talking about estrogen excess, which is a concern for a lot of women, particularly in perimenopause. We have Dr. Deb Matthew, Dr. Tara Scott talking about the difference between bioidentical and natural hormones and synthetic hormones. What is the difference? Why are you confused? Why is your doctor confused? Even in our literature, the scientists who do the research are confused. They will, in one sentence, say medroxyprogesterone acetate and call that progesterone, and it's not. These are apples and oranges, and doctors and scientists have conflated all hormones in one pile. The news media loves to scare you because then you trigger the reptilian brain and you're going to watch more news because you think you need to be scared. You need to pay attention. We're biologically programmed for that. So ever since the Women's Health Initiative study that had tested synthetic abnormal hormones that did cause breast cancer, all women have been confused. All doctors have been confused. So if you are afraid, you have been misinformed, is what I would say. And the only antidote to misinformation is to get the correct information. And if you don't, you owe it to yourself to do this. If you don't, 80 is not going to be a pretty picture for you. And I know, Margie, a lot of your people are very interested in bone health, particularly with bone health, but also with your cardiac health. Cardiac disease is increased. Cardiovascular disease and heart attack, the number one killer of women that nobody talks about. Like, we're all afraid of getting breast cancer, but most of us are going to die from heart attack and heart disease. And nobody's talking about the fact that estrogen helps protect against heart disease. Nobody's talking about the fact that your mainframe computer needs estrogen, progesterone, testosterone to be optimally healthy. And when it doesn't have this, guess what? You're at increased risk for dementia and Alzheimer's. And there's nothing that most people dread more than getting Alzheimer's and dementia. My mother has Alzheimer's. it is it is probably the worst. I can't imagine a worse disease than Alzheimer's, to live in your body and not know who anyone is and have no cognition. So if this is you and you're afraid, you have been misinformed, you need to get informed.
Okay, so Jesse, you told us a little bit about the summit. You want to just give us a little more information,
Yeah.
because that will be the place that everybody can really get more information about menopause, what's going on, hormone balance, all the things that you've alluded to, where
Right.
people who are doing this on a regular basis are able to share their information. So you've given us some information, but you want to just share a little more about the summit, and we'll have the link so everybody, that everybody can attend.
Sure. So it runs from November 1 through 5, Monday through Friday. It is free. Margie's going to give you the link to sign up. If you're listening to this after it runs, you can still sign up and access the content. So don't think that you're excluded. And each day we will release over 10 of the interviews. Like I said, 75 experts on menopause, over 50 doctors. It's such valuable content. Last year we had 13,000 women attend. They loved it. We decided to do it bigger and better this year, 75 experts. And you will learn A to Z, everything you need to know about, including bone health. We have Dr. Kim Millman does a masterclass. So I hope you will join us. Like I said, if you want to join us while it's running live, awesome. If not, you can still access the content after.
Wow. Well, I really can't thank you enough for sharing all this information and for putting together this summit that people can learn more about this and really delve in much deeper into hormones and how they, just everything menopause related. So
Yeah.
yeah. So just thank you so much for being here. And
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And, it's important work that you're doing. It's important work that we're all doing. Really, it's life-changing, what you're doing, what we're all doing. And so we just need to keep being out there and talking about this so that women get the memo. Another thing I just want to add is that everybody watching or listening right now, you've got women in your life. You've got sisters, daughters, mothers, cousins, aunties, you've got coworkers, you've got friends, you've got people in your network who are suffering, and they might not be sharing it with you. When I was suffering at 243 pounds, I didn't talk to anyone about how miserable I was. I just laid in bed at night thinking it was the beginning of the end and wondering if I was ever going to feel like myself again. And so we women aren't often very honest or transparent about the struggles we're having. We put on lipstick and we smile, but inside we're dying. And so you would be doing a great service to the women in your life to just share the link that Margie's going to give you. Go through your phone and text every woman that you can find who you're connected with, and go through your email and send that link to every woman you're connected with. And all you got to say is, "Hey, Jane, came across this, thought it might be interesting to you. Hope you check it out." Don't call her out and go, "I know you need to lose 20 pounds. Don't do that. Just say, "I saw this. It might be interesting. Hope you'll check it out," and the link. That really is what it's going to take, because there's so much shame around us for women. We think we're supposed to have it all together and have all the answers, and we're supposed to be able to figure it out ourselves. That's why we're all over the internet on Dr. Google. How do I balance my hormones? What tests do I need? But what you really need is the knowledge, tools, and support, and you need community. And that's what we're creating with the summit. We've got a private Facebook group where you can join us. We go live, thousands of women in there connecting. And you need to bring your friends along. So I hope you'll do that.
okay, well, thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure. And
Yeah.
good luck with the summit. I know it will be great.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Dr. Kyrin and now have a better appreciation of how important it is to balance your hormones. The link to the summit will be in the show notes, or you can just go to tinyurl.com/stop menopause madness. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and bye for now. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.